Start at page 4. You'll need a pen or a pencil in your hand. I have 3 marks on the board. This is our key. We are going to be marking the text as we read it, and I want you to use these 3 marks that you see. So, an exclamation mark is going to be for when you really agree with something. You're like, oh yeah, I totally agree with that. A little star like this, an asterisk, that's going to be when you want to leave a comment because you're making a connection. So, if something that we read reminds you of something else, you're making a connection. Maybe you read something and it reminds you of your favorite fairy tale. You put a little star and you'd say, connecting to Cinderella, or connecting to the 3 Little Pigs. Stars for connection. What do you think this one's for?
Question.
Yeah, that's when you're like, huh? I don't get it. So that's when you would write a question. So you're not just only putting the symbol, you're also going to write a note out to the side. So you would write your question, you would write the connection, or you would write what your agreement is. Does that make sense? Nod, 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 yes. Okay, let's take a look. I'm going to start reading. You're going to have a pen or pencil in your hand, and we're looking at the learning focus on page 4. If I tap you on the shoulder, that means I want you to read the next chunk, okay? Learning focus, choices. We're looking for agreeing, connections, or questions. What are some of the choices you make every day? This is the first page of our unit. Therefore, it's giving us a preview about what we're going to be doing today and talking about. I want you to, at your table group, come up with a sentence about what you think this unit is going to be about, based on the reading that you just did. So the question is, what is this unit going to be about? Ready, set, go. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Let's hear those 3. Go for it.
I think it's going to be about what we can add to our writing to make it better, like sensory detail.
Oh, so you zoomed in on those sensory details. Yes, we're going to be working with sensory details and making our writing better. Sean?
I think that it's going to be about personal narratives with sensory details, also with the added process of using skills to write your personal narrative and revising it.
Grant, can you read this question super loud for us?
How do others use narrative elements to create a story?
Okay. How do authors use narrative elements to create a story? It's kind of a tough question, but we need to come up with a possible answer. It doesn't have to be the right answer, just a guess, a possible answer. So how do authors use narrative elements to create a story? Just think about it for a couple seconds. We're going to start with the red stars. If you look at your desk and you have a red star, you're going to speak first in your group, then we're going to go around in a circle. How do authors use narrative elements to create a story? If you are not sure, then you might want to ask the group, hey, I don't know what they mean by this word. What do y'all think? That might be a question you ask the group. So red stars, you're going to start the conversation. How do authors use narrative elements to create a story? Ready, set, go. I want you to turn to page 38. Page 38. Why in the world are we skipping so many pages? Where did I take you? What is on page 38? Okay. What do you see there? It says embedded what? This is your embedded assessment. I might call it your EA. And this is the assessment that we'll do after all those 38 pages of learning. So why in the world would I be looking all the way at the end of the unit on the third day of school? Talk about it in your group. Why might we look ahead on the third day of school so early on? Go.
What do you think?
If someone in your group said something really smart, raise your hand. Someone in your group said something really smart. You think it's probably a good answer, raise your hand. Raise it high. 1, 2. One more. 3. What was said at your group?
To prepare you for what you're going to be learning about.
Prepare you for what you're going to be learning about. Who's 2? 2.
So you know what you're going to do.
Know what you're going to do. 3.
You know what's up ahead.
So we know what's up ahead. Think back at the beginning of class. I told you to make a list of 3 things about what?
What you use in that.
Why do we use a map? What do maps help us do? Help us to think about what is up ahead. Also, helps you to know what kind of things you might need for your trip. If you're going up north, you're going to need what?
Jacket.
Jacket. If you're going down south, you might need your swim trunks, right? So, what we are going to do is we are going to unpack that assessment. That means break it down into pieces so we know the things that we need to know before we get there and things we need to be able to do before we get there. So, we're looking here. We see that our task is going to be revising a personal narrative about choice. Our assignment, when we get there, later, a few weeks from now, your assignment is to revise the personal narrative you created during the timed writing activity in Activity 1.11. Use the revision techniques you have learned in this unit. You will also write a reflection on the changes you make to improve your first draft and explain the effect of the changes on the final piece. That's a lot of words, but we're going to break it down. So on your piece of notebook paper, make this T-chart. Know and do. And I'm going to look at this assignment paragraph right here, and I'm going to read the first sentence again. Your assignment is to revise the personal narrative you created during the timed writing activity. Is there something in that first sentence that I will need to be able to do? Your assignment is to revise the personal narrative you created during the timed writing activity. Talk in your group. What is an action that you will need to be able to do by the time you get to that embedded assessment? Talk it out. Go.
Write a personal narrative.
I heard the word a lot. Who said revise? Okay? We need to know how to revise writing. Put this on your T-chart. Is there a word in there that maybe we're not sure of that we're going to need to know? Maybe some vocabulary or some language that we don't know.
Never mind, that's all.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I want to do sensory details.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a second. Your assignment is to revise the what? What is the exact word there? Revise the... We need to know all about personal narrative. Okay? Right here, revision techniques. I'm not so sure what that means, so I'm going to put on my bulleted list here, we need to know revision techniques. You will also write a reflection on the changes. So I need to write a reflection. That's a do. And I also need to explain what? Explain the effects of the changes. All right. Turn over so you get to that page right there. This is your rubric. The rubric is 2 pages, so this is the first page on the left. Here's that second page on the right. What I'm going to do or ask you to do, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups. We have some columns, or we have some rows. We have an ideas row. We have an organization row. What's the next one? Okay, what's the bottom one? Conventions. And what is the one on the next page? Okay, we are going to focus on the exemplary column. So circle the exemplary column on both pages. That's where our focus is, so we're looking at this column here. And I'm going to give you a section, either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 is on the other page. What I want you to do is do the same thing, know and do, on your T-chart for the ideas in this box, or this box, or this box, or that box. Pull out the things you need to know or do. Does that make sense? Okay. You're going to be ideas, organization, use of language, conventions, ideas, organization, use of language, conventions. Y'all got your job? Right. I want you to read through and pull out and continue making bullet points on the list for things you might need to know or do. Ready, set, go? All right, here's what we're going to do. Let me see your eyeballs. I'm going to compile your list because you've just made me a to-do list for the whole unit. You have unpacked that assessment and you said, Mr. Leonard, we need to know how to revise writing. Mr. Leonard, we need to know how to write a reflection. Mr. Leonard, we need to know how to explain effects of changes. You've got to teach us what a personal narrative is. You've got to teach us some revision techniques. You've got to teach us about sensory images. You've got to teach us, what else? What a hook is. What's an engaging hook? So you have compiled a list for me. Those are the things that I am now going to teach you because you've told me that's what you need to know for the test, the embedded assessment. And if you're in my class, I want you to stack your papers on this table when I say go. And I'm going to compile all the things you wrote, and I'm going to put them right here, because this is our unpacked chart. So throughout this unit, we can look up here and know the things we need to know or learn to do before we get to our embedded assessment. How does that